Okay, it is. First of all, it has been far too long since I've talked to Scott Brown. I've talked to Ayla Brown more recently than Scott Brown a bunch of times. Congratulations on being a grandfather again, by the way, Scott.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, well, third is on the way in about 4 or 5 months as well. So yeah, it's going to be a hectic Christmas, I believe.
Scott Brown is the, I'm not sure what to call you, senator, ambassador, rhythm guitarist Brown these days. How do I address you?
You can call me Scott, and that's good. But listen, I'm very proud to have served in many different capacities, and hopefully there'll be a couple more moving forward as well. We'll see.
Yeah, but that's not going to be in New Hampshire in 2024, is it?
I'm not nothing in 24. No.
Nothing in 24. Interesting. All right, Scott, you have had you're cycling through the candidates again up in Rye in New Hampshire. You last week had Ron DeSantis in, and I love Ron DeSantis. I think he's a aggressive guy. What he's done in Florida is fantastic, casting out Fauci, etc. But this new New Hampshire Journal poll is out, and man, Trump is just, it's his to lose at this point. What's going to happen? New Hampshire voters, if they indict him and he's in prison, 60% still will vote for him.
Well, certainly President Trump is on top of the pack right now, and if anyone wants to beat him, they're going to have to go through him. And obviously, if you want to be the king, you have to beat the king. And I thought that Governor DeSantis did a nice job. As you know, when I ran for the U.S. Senate, I was down 41 points and ended up winning by 7. So polling, while important, it is early. People are still, we're not even up to Labor Day. People are at the beach. They're really not focusing on a lot of what's happening politically. The good news is when we had the governor here, we had about 400 people. We had Nikki Haley, we had about the same, and that was in the rain this weekend at Sunday. We have Vivek Ramaswamy coming in, then we have Mayor Suarez on the 16th, and then Governor Burgum on the 25th, and Vice President Pence on the 4th. So, busy times. People in New Hampshire want to get out and listen to these candidates. And a lot of the polling, I've seen some of the polling, and I've looked at it, and you really have to look at the tabs and see who they're polling, and if they're already Trump voters, or if they're more independent or Democrat. You got to really dissect them. And as I said, he is leading certainly, and the only way I believe that a lot of those candidates are going to gain any traction is to really point out the things that make them different from President Trump. A lot of them are going around being like Trump light. Well, why would you be Trump light and vote for someone who's Trump light when you can actually have Trump?
Yeah.
And then you really have to just reflect back and say, listen, he didn't repeal Obamacare like he said he was going to do. He didn't build the wall, and Mexico didn't pay for it. The debt grew almost $8 trillion, so he didn't balance the budget. He didn't reduce spending, and he turned the country over to Fauci. So if you're going to talk about Trump and you want to be like Trump, you got to point out the things he did or did not do well.
Right, and I think DeSantis had said some of those things. He certainly he was at a town hall in New Hampshire that he said some of those things that you're saying. And Pence certainly has been in recent days with some of these indictments, particularly around January 6th, been pointing out some of these differences of opinion he had with Trump during the administration. But in your opinion, is any of those candidates doing that effectively yet? Are you seeing that from anyone? Having seen him in person?
I thought Governor DeSantis, when he came over, he started to do it pretty effectively, and they're going to have to really do it more and have a big bully pulpit. That being said, once again, the President Trump is in the lead, and certainly it does look insurmountable, but respectfully, no lead is insurmountable. Gosh, ask the Yankees, when the Red Sox beat them and we won the World Series. So, there's a lot of things at play still, and it's not over till it's over, but they need to certainly start drawing those distinctions for sure.
Right, and New Hampshire is made up of voters who are somewhat more independent even than your typical Republican primary voters. they're definitely listening, and the race still does seem really fluid at this point. Do you get the sense from the people that you talk to in the area and who come to these barbecues and listen to the candidates, do you think they're settled on Trump, the ones who are this, I mean, in some cases, like 60% of the voters apparently are telling pollsters they're voting for Trump now? Or do they seem like they're open-minded to listening to other people too still?
Well, make no mistake about it. It started with Alan Bragg. When Bragg did the indictment in New York and took us morphed it and twisted it and turned it into some type of federal issue. People are like, what? And that gave him a bump. And now you see the other indictments that are happening, and it's solidifying his base for sure. But there is a block out there that are saying, you know what, do we want to have someone who's going to basically be fighting these things for 4 years and keep talking about them for 4 years during a presidency? Or do we want someone new who's going to deal with Russia and China as they kind of do a flotilla out close to Alaska? Do we want to deal with China and the economy and inflation and gas and energy and all those things? Do we want a clean slate? And that's, people are taking everything that President Trump has said and done, and they're putting it all together, shaking it up. And then when it was against Hillary Clinton, they're like, he has faults, but Jesus, she's terrible. And so I'm going to vote for him. Now, the question is that going to work again when you have somebody who's out there and says, well, gosh, enough. He's got, 4 or 5 indictments now, and we're going to have to deal with this. And I want someone new. I'm hearing from a lot of independent voters, and you're right, the independent voter is about 2 to 1 compared to the Democrat and Republicans, and they are a force. And then you have the people who are former Republicans are now independents. They just won't vote for President Trump. And then you have some Democrats, because Joe Biden's not on the primary up here. They may get in and play. They may pull a Republican ballot and then switch back and go vote for President Trump because they want him. They feel that he is vulnerable in the big one, in the general election. So there's a lot of gamesmanship going on, but the running, thing here in New Hampshire is, hey, listen, you're going to vote for Governor DeSantis? Well, I like him. I met him. He's done a great job in Florida, but I got to meet him 4 or 5 more times
before you can decide.
Yeah.
And it's funny, one of the recent polling numbers that jumped out at me too was Christie has bumped way up in the polls. And it's funny because we had a friend who told us he was visiting someone in New Hampshire and that they loved Christie. And do you think that that's a part of that is just those New Hampshire voters have more familiarity with him and, like his style, his direct talking and his way of speaking, and that's why he's seeing that bump?
Yeah, listen, Chris is a good debater. He'll do well on the stage. He thrives for these things. And, like John McCain did back in the day, he basically parked his bus here and just stayed here. and Christie and any other candidate will need to do the same thing. Really invest in New Hampshire. There's only 1.1 million citizens here, so it's about 700,000 voters, registered voters. So you can do it. You can meet those people 2 or 3 or 4 times. So you have to come here and you have to be here. Do I think he has a chance to win? No. But I think he'll be entertaining on the stage for sure. He and Trump are already going at it, and they always will.
Scott, how much of this, and I've got to tell you, this is, to me personally applies, and I'm not proud of this, but over the last couple of months, I've moved from DeSantis back to Trump because of the administrative state is persecuting this guy, and it's bullshit. It is. This is ridiculous. You said the Alvin Bragg stuff, but also the January 6th stuff, and this is just a complete pile-on. So it kind of feels to me like emotionally that it's got to be Trump because the establishment is trying to screw this guy in ways that we can't let this happen. This cannot be the way we run a country. It's third world stuff. So I know the math doesn't look good for Trump, but emotionally I'm saying screw this. Do you feel any of that, or are you seeing that elsewhere?
Well, you listen. You're not alone. There are a lot of people that feel like, Jesus, enough. Leave the guy alone. And it started when he came down the escalator. And the Russian, misinformation and all that stuff that they did in the very beginning. That being said, there are others who are like, well, listen, he got terrible advice. He got terrible advice in bringing any classified documents home. He got terrible advice in terms of the election issues at the end of his term. So whoever he surrounded himself with, quite frankly, gave him crappy advice. I mean, and especially in the classified documents thing. And Joe Biden had no authority whatsoever as a U.S. senator or a vice president to bring home any classified documents. Right. I mean, President Trump, you could argue that he has a little bit more authority, but I tell you what, I've had the highest clearances that they give, okay, not only as a U.S. senator, but as an ambassador and as a colonel in the Army. And I would never dream of taking anything out of a secured location, ever. And that's drilled in your brain. And yet you have people willy-nilly just taking classified documents, so shame on both of them, first of all. Yeah. They got crappy advice. And the fact that you have Joe Biden not being treated the same way, he voluntarily did it. No, he didn't. He was notified and he turned it over. But, President Trump was also working with the appropriate authorities to get those things handed over. But ultimately they said, hey, listen, we're done kind of slow walking this thing. So, you're one of many, but there are others who are saying, like, yeah, listen, we can do better than two old white guys. That's what they're saying, I'm telling you. I mean, that's not how I feel. I mean, I worked for the guy for 4 years. I was the longest-serving ambassador under President Trump. I was proud to do so, but I also recognize that he got terrible advice and made bad decisions when it came to some of the things that he's done.
Yeah, my worry is that, we've seen now that this Ukrainian money, the Chinese money, Romanian money went to Hunter and shell companies and somehow got wired to other Bidens. And right now the Justice Department is not investigating. They're if they wanted to freeze the statute of limitations, they would indict and really investigate, but they're not going to do it. And my feeling is that if Trump is elected president, his Justice Department will do it. I think and hope but at least he'll have the resolve to do it. And any other Republican, I think, would cave under the pressure of the media saying you can't go after a former president, etc. I mean, we need some kind of reckoning. We need some kind of justice here, Scott. I'm sorry to be so general, but frig. I mean, this is ridiculous.
You can speak passionately. That's okay. You're a big boy. You can say what you want. But I'm also deeply concerned about the Justice Department, that they're not being as neutral as they should be. I mean, that's absolutely correct, and I think people need to be concerned about that. And the fact that so now, if President Trump, now we're going to go after Joe Biden, and then how about the next person? Is that the new norm? Anyone who runs for president, they're going to be investigated after? I mean, we got to start figuring this stuff out and make sure that we are not turning into a third world country with investigation after investigation. I want to focus more on the fact that China's stealing our intellectual property and that they're building and militarizing islands and changing the law of the air and sea that's been in place for centuries. I want to make sure that we figure out, what's happening with Russia and Ukraine. How do we stop that, and how do we make sure that it doesn't spread into Europe and basically affect us more dramatically? I want to make sure that we're energy independent and we don't have to rely on oil from countries that either don't like us, hate us, or want to kill us. So those are the things that I want to deal with, especially on the border, too, stopping people from coming over, stopping fentanyl from coming over. I mean, those are the issues that matter to me, and making sure that my kids and grandkids are safe and sound and they can walk down the street without being mugged or attacked. So that's where my head's at, and respectfully, that's where a lot of voters are at. You are more active, and there are a lot of people who are very active in there. They're saying, damn, we got to do this with the Justice Department, and we got to make sure we have retribution. No, I want to make sure that we can pay our bills and our kids can, be safe and they don't die by taking, a hit of a joint. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's happening in New Hampshire. That's what touched Trump last time around, is some of these stories of the accidental overdoses or.
New Hampshire is it's out of control, and our northern border is wide open. People forget about that because they've taken all the agents to bring them down the southern border.
And we're seeing that in New England for sure. Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts. Massachusetts is under a state of emergency now. Yes. The governor just came out and said we have 5,600 migrant families in shelters with nowhere to live, can't work.
Shut the damn border. Have her call the president and shut the border and keep the stay in Mexico policy. That's all the border agents want. just have the stay in Mexico policy. It's unbelievable that they would let people in here, give them a ticket, and say show up in a couple of years. Yeah, okay, sure. And then it's abhorrent, it's inhumane, and it's criminal what they're doing, allowing these people coming in.
Yeah.
So if she wants to do something, then she should contact the president and say, "Sir, do your job. Shut the damn border."
It's interesting because she's actually asking mass residents, which we still are, to take in migrants, like the Intolerable Acts or something.
I didn't expect the Third Amendment to the Constitution to become an issue in my lifetime, but we're getting there, I think, with the housing people in houses.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But yeah, and it's so crazy to me because I think, and I'm a little more skeptical of Trump than Tom is, I think. I was in 2016 also. I voted for Trump in 2016. I voted for him in 2020. If he's the nominee, I'll vote for him again. But I am afraid that having him as our nominee in 2024 will win Republicans a ticket to the sidelines for another 4 years, which I'm afraid our country can't afford right now.
Yeah, listen, I don't disagree, and that's the question. If he is the nominee and it's Biden, which I don't think Biden will last that long, quite honestly. I think it'll be somebody else. Will you stay out? Don't forget, you have RFK Jr. running. He's going to win New Hampshire because he's the only one on the ballot. He's going to take some votes. You have Cornel West running as a Green Party person. Going to take some votes away from the Democrats. So will there be some opportunities for the Republicans? Will those mostly women, respectfully, who left the party because of President Trump, will they come back? I don't think they will. So what will they do? Will they thumb their nose and stay home, or will they end up voting for the Democrat or RFK Jr.? I don't have that answer.
That's interesting because Biden has taken a hit in the polls, and especially in the last few months, this thing with his granddaughter really stuck. And also, I think people are irked out about all the hair sniffing and things. We went overseas, and he especially took a long inhale. And I think women are skeeved out by that stuff. And he's not a good guy. You know him. I mean,
listen, I did know him. I spent quite a bit of time with him. I enjoyed his company. But that's not Joe Biden. We all know the signs. We all know people who have dementia and have the beginning of Alzheimer's, and he's got it. I mean, it's the walk, it's the way he's mumbling, his anger outbursts, and it's a shame that we can't do better, as I said, in this great country. But a lot of people don't want to run because of everything you're seeing now.
Yeah. Hey, I might be imagining this, but when you were on the Herald Radio with us probably 7 years ago, when you got sworn in as senator, was he like hair-sniffing Gail or handsy with Gail, or did I imagine that?
Yeah. I told him I'd kick the shit out. I told him to stop, so yes.
Did you really? Go through it again, if you don't mind.
No, it's old news. It's old news. It is, yes, he didn't act the way I thought he should, and we called him on it, and that's it.
You called him on it to his face, right there.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Sure.
Where's the hot mic for that one?
Yeah, I know. The good old days.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Biden misses the good old days of politics more than some people. But yeah, if we could retire the guy, that would be ideal. I think a lot of people feel that way. Even in the Democratic Party, I don't think there's a ton of enthusiasm for him. But yeah, do you think he'll ultimately even be the nominee? I mean, certainly Gavin Newsom looks like he's warming up too.
I don't think he's physically able to, quite frankly. I don't think he's going to make it. I'm still betting that he doesn't finish out this term, but I hope I'm wrong. And listen, I want if the president succeeds, then we as a country succeed. So I don't wish anything bad for him. But that being said, there's no way that he is going to be ready for a second term based on everything you're seeing. I don't know who's next.
Well, do they dare? Do Democrats dare step over Kamala?
She's a lightweight. She would never win for president ever. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a Democrat, but they have a very weak bench for sure. I mean, you look at, you want to talk about the party of diversity. I mean, you have Nikki Haley, you got Vivek Ramaswamy, you've got people from all parts of the country and nationalities in our party that are running for office. And who do you got? You got an old white guy, leading the head of the Democratic Party. I mean, come on.
Yeah, Tim Scott, actually, who's people think is going to have a big moment soon.
Yeah, Tim's coming up. I just spoke to him yesterday. We have him lined up, actually, for, let me just see what the date is. Tim Scott is on September 7th.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Are you going to, but by the way, do you ever have Democrats up there? Would you have Kennedy up there? Or just Republicans?
I've actually, I went and saw him speak at St. Anselm's. I thought he was very good. And I thought his message was good, and I'm happy to. I may have him up. I'm going to go through these folks first, but yeah.
That's good to know. Okay, Scott Brown in the Diplomats. People can find out more at scottbrown-diplomats.com. Meanwhile, you're running for Senate in 2028. Feel free to drop it.
No comments, but I did just send you. I just texted you. I don't know whose phone it was, the schedule. You can certainly post it. I pay for all the stuff myself. You get a hot dog and a beer. I spent usually about $1,500 at barbecue. And, people can see us. We're down the Cape at the Music Room in West Yarmouth. Friday, Saturday, we're in Salisbury. Then we're out in Shirley. And, we're all over. So, love to see folks.
That's great. We appreciate the time, Scott. It's great talking to you again. Best to your family.
Thanks. Bye-bye.